Having successfully launched 3 businesses, bilingual mum to 2 and entrepreneur Antonia Bowes-Brown has connected with thousands of people, both French and international, since moving to the French Riviera. These connections allow her to speak with successful local businesses and inspirational people about life here on the Côte d'Azur and share it with you. Welcome to the Riviera Firefly podcast with your host, entrepreneur, and my mum, Antonia Bowes-Brown.
Welcome to episode 38, where we chat with our very own baby whisperer here in the south of France, sleep consultant Louise Morelli. Over the last 11 years, running Kidooland, I've had the opportunity to meet and chat with thousands of parents. Obviously, they come to me to get help learning English, but as I get to know them and we chat, I obviously have heard all different challenges around raising their children, from behaviour to education, separation anxiety, food and eating issues, and of course, sleep issues. It's a really common issue raised by many mums, how to get your child to sleep early enough, sleep through the night, babies that don't settle on their own, maybe they need mum to lay down beside them in order to rock them off to sleep, toddlers that are still awake after the parents want to go to bed, children that have night terrors maybe and keep waking through the night. Well, the knock-on effect is that you get tired and grouchy children, you get behavioural issues in the daytime, and of course you get exhausted parents. So Louise has some great insight into dealing with these issues and getting your child gently to sleep, and I thought it'd be really great to spend some time interviewing her so that you found out a little bit more about her and her journey. Another thing that we talked about over our discussion is that it really does take a village to raise a child, and for many of us located over here that is an issue as family and friends are not necessarily close by. Community and support are so important really through all stages, from babyhood right up to the silver surfers. So I'm going to do a little plug for all the social media groups, whether you love them or hate them. They are a useful way to create an online community. So I put in the show notes lots of links to some of the very best local community groups, whether you're a business, a parent, retired, with Côte d'Azur Living, the community group, being one of the main ones because that has links that reach out and onwards to all the smaller groups. Don't suffer in silence. Do reach out to newcomers, those that maybe need a guiding hand for whatever reason. I'm loving the Pay It Forward theme that has snowballed from a little idea that was posted in one of the business groups, Riviera Cocoon. Everyone started paying it forward in a business sense. It was so beautiful. So let's bring that into everyday living. We all met challenges in our early days when we first relocated here, and so pass this on now. You had people that helped you back in the day. There were websites that don't exist now that helped us back in the day. So let's try and help those people relocate and find their feet when they move here. For the mums and dads, to ensure you sign up for parent groups, it's so important. They do come and go, but the group Riviera Mums and Dads on Facebook has a really supportive parent network that's there to give you tips in a matter of seconds. It's incredible how quickly that community will reply to your questions and your needs. Don't forget that you can pop into Kidooland. We're on the Chemin de Saint-Bernard in Valoris. That's our year-long premises there. We are different to many of the other mum and baby groups because we're open all day week, Monday to Saturday, and in the school holidays, serving all the families here on the Côte d'Azur. We are dedicated to the world of kids with different activities for different ages, 0 to 16 years, and permanently set up, as I said, to welcome you all. We even have a little gift shop. It's tiny, but it's going to grow. So even though 85% of our clients are actually French families trying to learn English, we do have a small percentage, and it is growing, that come for activities that are more dedicated to the international community. So we host a small baby group on Mondays with activities, teas and coffees, and that's a great way to get out of the house and to meet other people. It can be a very long night sometimes if you're up through the night with that baby that's crying, needing feeding and settling and soothing. Actually getting out to a mum and baby group and just meeting someone else that says, oh, me too, I was up with my teething baby or something. It gives you something to talk about when your partner comes home at the end of the night as well, and it just gives you a little release in the day. We also have more active classes for toddlers on Fridays. and a playgroup and kindergarten where parents leave their preschoolers. It's a really lovely club feel with families forming strong bonds with each other. We have a little notice board up outside where you can find details on other activities, or you could pop your own little business card there. Events like the forthcoming MOSA event raising money for local cancer charities. Maybe you're looking for a local expert, a speech therapist. Well, the team are on hand, and if we don't know, we know someone who does know. So we're there to help you settle into life locally and as a parent. The Riviera Firefly podcast is really a community service that we do for free. Do it in our spare time. It takes around 8 hours work from the team, from planning to going live on air, but we do it to help the international community find their feet, to discover new ideas. It's also a place for the entrepreneurs to share their story, because as a small business owner myself, I know how hard that can be. So I want to do my bit and pay it forward. So while my typical client wouldn't even come into contact with this podcast, I'm going to ask you to help me. It's been a year now since we've been doing these podcasts, so if you like, it's our little Riviera Firefly birthday. Can you spread the word for me that Kidooland is there in Valoris and in Valbonne? Because I know that you know lots of French families, and it would just help if you could share that message for us. And if you do know anyone with any teenagers, then even if they are international, we do have some programs that they may be interested in. One of my favourite coming up soon in the summer is going to be around architecture, and another one on photography. And one that we beta tested last year is K Elite. It's English Leaders in Training. So it's for 12 years old and over. Great asset on their CV, which, as I'm a mum with teenagers wanting to fill their CV, is why I put it together. So join me in helping us create our own village. Take a minute this week to pay it forward. Now let's roll and find out all about sleep. Welcome to the Riviera Firefly podcast to Louise Morelli. Hi, Louise.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great. Well, we managed to get over a few of our technical issues. You're over in Monaco, I think. Are you? Right
yes.
Now? And I'm over here in Valoris. So the wonders of modern technology, we got it working, I think. So what I wanted to talk to you about, I was really excited to find you on Facebook. It kind of popped up on one of my Facebook channels, Gently to Sleep, gentlytosleep.com. And I just thought, oh, I wish I'd have had this 14 years ago. When I first came back with my, well, actually it was 16 years ago with number one. When you sort of given this baby bundle from the hospital, and you're very much followed by all the sort of medical professionals until that point. And I remember coming home with a car seat with a baby in it and getting into the house and putting the car seat down. And my husband and I just looked at each other and we were like, what now? And we were just kind of left to it, you know. And one of the things which I really pick up so much on your Facebook site is that these poor mums, you know, we're so sleep deprived. And it is, you know, it impacts the whole of your life, the stress and everything. So I just thought this would be brilliant to get together with you, get a few tips and really point people in your direction so that they can not have those traumatic sort of early times with their babies.
Yes, that's lovely. And thank you for contacting me. I too was that mum who came home with the car seat and a baby and went, oh my goodness, now what happens? Because when you are a pregnant mum to be, you go to your classes, they teach you what's going to happen, you hope for the birth, what to expect, how to breastfeed, all these things, but nothing is ever talked about with regards to sleep. And we are all just left to get on with it. And we're all recovering from birth, however that happens for us. And we all arrive home and think, right, okay, we need to look after this beautiful little bundle. I'm really quite tired from the birth. What happens now? And we all just kind of get on with it. Some of us are lucky enough to have family close by. Many of us here, especially in this part of the world, aren't local. We don't have our families with us, and we don't have that support that many of our friends and other family members have. You know, we don't have our mums living next door. We don't have our aunties or grandmothers or best friends here who say, you know what, this is what I did, have a go, see if it works. And it's really quite scary. And we all managed to get through it one way or another. But it's hard work and it's tiring and you're not sleeping generally. And it's just learning as you go. So I too was on that journey as a new mum. I was here with my husband and really not many other family members close by. And I was in the situation after quite a few months where my little girl wasn't sleeping. I was exhausted. She was exhausted, and it affects all aspects of your life. And in the end, I thought, right, I really need to do something about this. And I did a lot of research on the internet. I read books when I could, and I found a way. I found a method, and luckily that method worked for me. Now, during that process, I really found sleep interesting. I found the biology of sleep interesting. I found the fact that it actually worked, the process. And it just kind of sparked something within me. And I thought, you know what? I think I want to do this. I think that when the time comes for me to return to work, I don't want to do what I've been doing before. I want to do something that makes a difference. And I want to do something that makes a difference to other mums, because I've been there. I know how it feels. I know how lonely it can feel to be going through this on your own and thinking, well, nobody else, everyone else seems to be doing really well, and their child seems to be sleeping, but mine isn't. So maybe it's me doing something wrong. So I'll just kind of, not say a lot about it and carry on. But actually, most parents are struggling at some point with sleep, and nobody really knows what to do. There's no guidance at the beginning about sleep. And I wanted to give that guidance to mums and dads and get families sleeping, because it makes such a difference to your day. You're a better parent for it because you're actually full of energy to do what you need to do to look after your little one. Your child is happier because the routine is there, the sleep is there, and it's just good for everybody. It's a wonderful thing.
It is. It's an absolute gift that you're providing to families, basically. And I really found that interesting, the whole thing that you're saying about lots of us are here without the support network, because I love that saying, a child is raised by the village. And
Yes.
That's kind of lost, isn't it, these days, particularly if you move abroad. Can I take you back to, I'd just love to know how it all came before you came to France. So back in, whereabouts were you? You're from Britain originally?
Yes, I'm British. I was born in Lancashire. I lived there until I was in my early 20s. Following when I graduated from university, I worked there for a couple of years, and then I moved down to Broadstairs in Kent with work. And also with the man that would be my husband in future. So I've been in the UK right up until sort of 10 years ago, and then we moved here.
So you moved here without kids? You had your kids when you were here, or you had them in the UK and brought them over?
No, here. We moved over as a couple, and our little one was born 3.5 years ago.
So you weren't working in England in anything related in this field? It was totally different, was it?
It was totally different, yes. I graduated, my degree was in marketing and English, and I worked in marketing. I worked in admin for most of my working life in the UK. Shortly after graduation, I worked for Grosvenor Investments. They owned a shopping centre in Lancashire, and I was responsible for all their marketing. And I really enjoyed that work. It was good to be among lots of people. I learned a lot at that time. And at that point, I also met my future husband-to-be. I was working for the landlord, and he was a new tenant that came into the centre. He was opening one of his stores. He had a chain of cappuccino bars across the UK. And he opened a store within our shopping centre, and that's how we met. He then invited me to come and work for him down in Broadstairs, which I did, and we worked together every single day, and I did his marketing for him. I did the admin, I did personnel, I was the customer service department. I did so many things, which is the way of a family business. It was his business. It was a very small head office, and it was a great team, a very close team, a wonderful company, and a very happy business. The family business was ice cream, Italian ice cream, and it's just such a happy business. It's still running to this day, and it was great because, again, I learned so much in lots of different areas that I hadn't done before. And with it being a family business, it was just really, really friendly. And it was just nice to see customers coming in choosing their enormous ice cream sundaes, which we are famous for, and every single person would take a photo of that and have a huge smile on their face, and fathers would be pulling in their children saying, you want an ice cream, don't you? But it wasn't really, it was for them. It was them, remembering their own childhood and having a huge ice cream and enjoying the day. So it was a great time. And then we decided around 10 years ago that it was time for a new challenge. My husband's daughter had moved into part of the business and she had taken over that, and things were right for us just to move to somewhere warmer. My husband always wanted to do it, and he said, come on, let's go for it. So we did, and here we are.
So you had a great foundation and a great grounding back in the UK before coming over, and I can really see that in your choice of your name, which I just want to say, Louise, I love it. Gently to Sleep, I just think can't believe it's gone already. You must have been like thrilled when you looked on Google and saw the .com was still available.
I know, I just could not believe it. It took a long time to find my business name, I have to say. I wanted to get it just right. And when I finally thought of this name, it was kind of a light bulb moment after weeks and weeks of lists and lists of company names thinking, it isn't right. And then I thought of this and I thought, there's just not a chance that this .com will be available at all. And there it was. And I thought, it's just meant to be. So yeah. I quickly snapped it up.
and you were right too. And the logo as well. There are lots of logos I look at and I really don't like, but yours, I was looking at it earlier and I love it. I just think it really totally captures what you're doing. It's gentle, and it's asleep. It's great. It's a cool logo. I love it.
Yes, it's a combination that we all aim for as mums. I think we want our babies to sleep, but we want to do it as gently as we can.
There's nothing more beautiful than seeing a sleeping baby. I think it's
gorgeous
criminal to wake one. So okay, so you had your idea, you got your .com. Thrilled that you managed to get that. What happened next? How did you build it all up?
Right. Well. Initially, as I said, I'd gone through the whole process of not sleeping as a new parent, and I decided that I would retrain and I would learn how to do this as my career and help other parents. So I did a lot of research online. It took me a long time. There were a lot of people offering this kind of training, but a lot of training packages just aren't right. They aren't comprehensive enough. I just felt that it wasn't the right thing for me. And then I landed on the company that I did train with in the end. And I just thought, this is right. It was a comprehensive medical-based training. It took quite a while. It took a lot of work from me, a lot of dedicating time to do this. But I learned all about sleep from doctors, pediatricians, midwives, nurses, sleep consultants, nutritionists, the whole range of experts for all the elements that go into good sleep. It isn't just a case of having the right routine. It's a case of making sure that the feeding is correct, that the schedule is correct, that what you're doing is correct, that you're listening to your child, that your child is healthy, and that there isn't some underlying medical condition going on that's causing this lack of sleep. The whole range of things that are important. So I then trained. It took me almost a year to do my training, and then I qualified. And from then I started to launch my social media, my website. I've started reaching out to local pediatricians, to midwives. I'm about to contact hospitals to slowly build and let people know that I'm here. Throughout my training, I also worked with volunteer mums and dads. It was obligatory that I did that. And it was a very, very important part of my training, because without that practical knowledge, you cannot possibly learn how to do things correctly. So I had all the theory behind me. I also worked with many parents to get their babies to sleep. And I have to say, to date, I've had a 100% success rate. With many different ages, I worked all the way from newborn right the way up to 5 years old. And it's just so interesting. And it's just wonderful to hear a mum first thing in the morning ring you excitedly to say, I can't believe it. He slept through the night. It's the first time in 18 months that he slept through, and I feel like a new person. And I'm just so happy. And that is what my work is all about. It's just about that joy of a family being rested. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a total gift. What would be the typical age that someone does come to you, would you say?
I tend to see patterns in when parents come. So I get the parents that are really proactive. I tend to see quite a few at around 4 weeks. That's the earliest I work with babies. And of course, it isn't traditional sleep training at this age. It's all about awake times and just easing your child into a very gentle, loose routine at this stage. So I have the mums and dads that come to me at this age and say, right, I want to start things correctly at the beginning. And it's great because in general, the parents that start at this age have fewer problems further down the line. I then start to see parents again at around 4 months. They call it the 4-month sleep regression. I don't call it a regression, I call it a progression. Because biologically at 4 months old, there is a change in the way babies sleep biologically. Their sleep cycles change, and you can get babies that go from being great sleepers to all of a sudden catnapping and then waking 3 and 4 times in the night. And parents are going, what's happened? What's happened to my baby? Because he or she was an amazing sleeper. I haven't changed anything. And all of a sudden, my baby isn't sleeping. So we then have to work on the reasons why this happens and again, ease this baby into a routine. And it's a good age again to make changes. Going into the next year, it's great to fix any issues at that age. And the main issue at that age is actually self-settling. Once a child can self-settle at that age, then the problems that come further on, again, with developmental changes, when they start crawling, when they start walking, when they start talking, that's when sleep, again, is affected. So I tend to see, again, a sort of 9 months, there's a whole load of parents that come to me. Again, at 12 months, 18 months is another sticky time because they're dropping that first nap. And then again, I seem to see a whole load of parents at around 2.5 or 3. Again, it's when that final nap is going. And sometimes the signs are obvious and sometimes they aren't. So a lot of parents do come to me at that time as well.
I can remember every single time you would go into a new phase that you'd have to sort of relearn things, wouldn't you? Readapt
Yes.
to your child and their evolution. Is there a difference? I was thinking about this. Is there a difference between breastfed babies and bottle-fed babies, do you think, in terms of their sleep?
No, I don't. It's generally considered that bottle-fed babies sleep through the night quicker. I haven't actually seen that as part of my work. And I know that when I trained, it was something that was talked about a lot. And there is actually very little concrete medical evidence to show that breastfed babies sleep worse than bottle-fed babies. A lot of parents will say, well, I think there is a difference, and and every baby is different, so perhaps within a family there are differences if one perhaps was bottle fed and one was breastfed, but it isn't necessarily the feeding that's the issue. Often sleeping issues at the very beginning can be linked to feeding issues, but that tends to wear off once breastfeeding in particular is established. And generally by sort of 4, 5, 6 months, feeding shouldn't be an issue when it comes to sleeping. It's something else that's causing the problem. I just feel that with the work that I'm doing now, I'm maybe just helping a little bit with mums with easing the way through motherhood and getting some sleep is just so important.
For sure. And does it, so you're gently to sleep, does that include control crying? That I know there was a book, I can't remember what it was, but back in the day there was a book that came out and everyone that was the big buzzword back then. Is that your approach at all, or is it very much far from that?
My approach, I actually know all the methods for sleep training. So I go from the super gentle methods, which for some mums they really can't tolerate any kind of upset. So it can go from even using breastfeeding and backing off as a method of settling over a very long period of time, right the way through all the methods from gentle through to traditional. And I have learned about sort of extinction, as they call it, which is the cry it out method. My default route is always the most gentle method. It's a very contentious issue, crying when sleep training, and control crying does have a bit of a bad press. It's very difficult to use very, very gentle methods with certain situations. So, for example, if a mum is, say she has 3 children and she wants to use a gentle method to settle her child, but at settling time she has a toddler and a 4-year-old that needs her attention and she's at home on her own. A very gentle method may not necessarily be the right way, or the character of her child may not necessarily be right for a gentle method. That said, controlled crying is also not right for a lot of parents, because firstly, it's just not right for them. They don't feel it's the right thing for their child. The temperament of their child doesn't suit that. The situation doesn't suit that. So if a child is used to being rocked to sleep or held to sleep, to then go to controlled crying, it's too big a jump. You can't do that. So for me, I always approach working with any of my families as if it was my child. So would I leave my child in a room to cry and shut the door and say, that's it, that's my training? No, I would not. But what I do is I look at every single family, every single situation, and I choose the most gentle method that I can for that family. Now, I've had situations where mothers have come to me and said, I want a really gentle method, and we've gone ahead and worked with that. And they've actually themselves slowly worked towards a more cry-based method because they've found confidence within themselves and they've seen actually that their child is okay. So that happens too. So it's very difficult to say I only use one method. I don't. I probably know 8 or 9 methods, and I tailor that method for that child. But yes, my default route is always the most gentle method that I can for that particular baby and that particular family.
I love the way that it's adapting to each different child, because as a parent, when you do raise issues, and I suppose this is why lots of people don't raise issues, is you get so much advice from people, all conflicting.
Yes.
So you're having to take this very global look at the family, the whole situation, their way of living, and help guide them through it with all the different methods, tailoring it basically, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And, certain methods are better for certain age groups. So, for example, for a very young baby, I wouldn't even consider any kind of cry-based technique, especially for the first 3 or 4 months. Formal sleep training isn't right either. Babies aren't biologically able to deal with it. So for the first 3 or 4 months, I see it as the 4th trimester. There's this idea that we're born a little bit early, and that the 4th trimester, the first 3 months of life, is actually a continuation of the womb environment. So I advise all my mothers during this time that you can't cuddle your baby too much, you can't carry your baby too much, you can't spoil your baby. Your baby needs you. He or she needs to be close to you, needs to smell you, needs to be fed by you, whichever method you choose to feed your baby. And you need to recreate that womb environment. So you need to keep your baby swaddled and comfy. You need to recreate those sounds of the womb, and you need to allow your baby to know that you are here for them. So you cannot just leave your baby to cry at this age. It just isn't right for you or your baby. And I don't think any mum would actually want to do that.
No.
It just goes against our nature as mums. Our instinct is to protect our baby, to keep them safe, to keep them close, and it's right for you as a mother, and it's right for your baby as well.
Brilliant. I want to just move a little bit to the Côte d'Azur now, and so
Yes.
just to find out a little bit about how you've discovered the Côte d'Azur, what you've enjoyed, and how people can go about making new friends and settling in, because I think that's a really important part and links back into what we were saying earlier about the village and getting your support network and trying to avoid being that mum that's at home that hasn't got people to reach out to. So what kind of things
Yes.
did you do, Louise, when you first came over?
I did. Luckily, social media is great for finding what's going on. I did tend to use my social media to see if there's anything going on locally. So mums groups, any kind of events that would be right for me. I was lucky that I made friends during hospital classes for the childbirth classes and breastfeeding classes. And we were also lucky in Monaco that we have a great playgroup at St. Paul's Anglican Church. Every Monday and Thursday there's a playgroup for all mothers. And that is where I made most of my friends here. It's difficult for mums here, especially ones that don't have family, because you really are on your own and it's really quite lonely. So I just think you have to get out there, even if it just means going to your local cafe and sitting and having a coffee. You may just bump into somebody. Often when you're out walking, you'll meet other mums, and it does take, you have to be proactive and just chat. You have to chat to other mums, go to parks and just chat to people. I think we often don't have as many things going on as in other countries such as the UK. The UK is great for things to do for young babies and mums. But just keep your eyes open, look in the local press, speak to other mums and see what they do, and ask your paediatrician. He or she may know what's going on locally. Your local midwife might know as well. But it isn't easy. But you just have to keep going and just keep trying and just keep talking to people.
And I think those mum and baby groups are so important. It's why I keep one here at Kidooland, actually, because people don't necessarily always come every week, because with babies you have to go to paediatricians and it's not so difficult to get into that same routine. But it is important. Do you know what? I keep it going because I think that even if you've been up through the night and you're really tired, if you get out and go and have a cup of coffee or tea with some other mums and just share, how tired you are, actually that day is a lot better. Because when you get home, you go, I've done something today other than just change nappies or bottles or whatever.
Yes. Or actually managed to get a shower that day. That's how it is in those early months.
It so is. And you can't sit on your laurels. You like you said, with one child it might go swimmingly well, and then the second one totally different. You never get cocky about it, is what I say. Because
no, I've had mums who are on their fourth child and they've said, oh my goodness, what's happened? I've had 3 who were absolutely great sleepers, and then this one is a nightmare. I'm an experienced mum, what's happening? It's every child is different. It's you really cannot rest on your laurels.
For sure. Now I know that reading isn't necessarily something that mums have a lot of time to do in those early days, but if they were given some me time, have you got a favourite book that you would recommend?
I do have a favourite book for mums, and it's a great book for mums of newborns or mums to be who are trying to do a bit of reading up before their little one arrives, and it's called The Happiest Baby on the Block. It's by Dr. Harvey Karp, and it talks about the 4th trimester. So it talks about those first 3 months before you lead into that sort of 4-month change in sleep. And as I've talked about already, it talks about recreating the womb environment for your baby. It's a wonderful book. It's quite a short read. So even if you are a new mom and you're trying to grab 10 minutes to read while your baby's sleeping or whatever, it's a great book. It's very simple, and it has amazing tips on how to settle your baby. This man is a genius. And you can see him on YouTube as well, calming babies, and he has a 5-step system to calm a crying baby, and it's magic. It's really, really, yeah, he really is, and his knowledge comes from a long time working with babies, and I love it. I just think it's a great book, and it's full of handy tips. And you look at it and you go, wow, that makes sense. And if you are a gentle parent, it's even more relevant for you, because he really does talk about the need for your child to be with you as a mother or a father, that bond, about creating that bond, maintaining that bond, having that closeness, and just caring for this little person who's entered this world that's just so different from the 9 months that he or she has enjoyed beforehand. It's great. It just guides you through those early months where you're so tired, when you can't really predict sleep easily. Even though you have these ideas of awake windows and easing into routines, newborns often don't play the game either. They'll have a great few days, and then they'll have a terrible few days, and you think, okay, I've done exactly the same thing, what's going on? And it's just the nature of newborns. We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all had those moments of scratching our head and our baby's wailing, and you're thinking, well, my baby isn't hungry, she isn't cold.
You go through that checklist.
Yeah, and you're like, so what is it? And he talks about this. He talks about why this happens, and it's just enlightening. And then all of a sudden you go, right, okay, this is what
Brilliant.
it's about, and this is what I have to do.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to put that in the show notes. So the show notes, either they can click on their podcast app and see all the details from this podcast, or they can go on our website and find it in there. Now, if people wants to get in touch with you, I know that you're on Twitter and Instagram, so I'm going to put those
Yes.
links in the show notes as well. But
Yes.
tell us the website and the best way to get in touch with you.
Okay, I'm also on Facebook. So if you search Facebook Gently to Sleep, you will find me. And my website is www.gentlytosleep.com.
Brilliant.
Nice and easy.
And I can't believe the Facebook was available as well. You were really very lucky with that name.
I know. Honestly, it was just meant to be, really.
What's in line for you, Louise, for 2018?
Okay, so for 2018, I'm planning to do plenty of sleep talks. So I will be inviting mums to join me in groups of, I don't know, 10 or 15 mums, however many they want to be, and have a coffee, have some nice cake, and I will talk to them about sleep. So mums may choose to create their own groups and say, you know what, we all have babies who are between 6 and 12 months. Can we have a talk on that? Or I will do more general talks in cafes, in places that they want me to come to their homes. I can do it as part of a home visit. And I will talk about ways that they can settle their babies, what they should be expecting during the next few months, and what they can do to help improve their baby's sleep. It's great for mums to get together. It's a wonderful opportunity to make friends and, of course, learn about sleep.
Fantastic.
And as well, I'll be offering probably the gift of sleep packages too. So for mums to be who are waiting for their little ones, I'm also going to be creating something so that they can learn before their baby arrives. Because as I said, there's just no help out there. There's no education about sleep other than things that you look for yourself, and the internet is full of conflicting information. There are so many books that tell you different things, and you just don't know what the right thing is. So I'm pulling all that information together, giving mums options on what they can do for those first few months and what to do looking ahead. And I think it will be a great help for mums, because as I said, we're all just finding our own way, and as much help as we can get, it's great for us. Knowledge is power. For
sure. And any sort of tools that one can add to your armory, to your weaponry, to sort of get through gently and easily and with as little conflict as possible, so that you enjoy that experience of having the new baby.
Exactly. Babies are to be enjoyed, and there are lots of ways to make that easier with regard to sleep, and gently is the way to go, especially from the beginning. If you can get things in order at the beginning, it makes it so much easier moving further on down the line, and it can be gently. I have lots and lots and lots of mums who have chosen the gentle route and have found success, and their babies are happy and they are happy, and it's just been right for them. I think a lot of mums are reluctant to do sleep training because they think that they'll go to a sleep consultant and they'll just be told, well, just let your baby cry. I know that pediatricians locally give that advice. I was given that advice and I thought, I can't do that. It just doesn't feel right for me. And there are many, many ways to gently get your baby to sleep. Occasionally it doesn't work and we have to look at other options. It does happen. But in general, you can do it. It takes a little bit longer, but you can do it. So I think a lot of mums are reluctant, and they shouldn't be. There are alternatives out there. They do work. And as long as parents are consistent and know that it isn't going to happen overnight sometimes, then you will get success with your baby's sleep, and you will see changes that are lifelong changes. Sleep is an ever changing thing, but if you get the basics happening correctly, all the little blips that come along for all of us with our babies as they become children and grow, you can deal with it because you know that the foundation is there.
And that is such a brilliant way to end this, because mine are now teens. They're 16, 14. And, we did manage to muddle our way in, through and get the kids sleeping well from a fairly, youngish age. It wasn't, it has its up and downs, fine. But now I've got kids that go to bed at a good time. They're not on their phones last thing at night. We've put all those things into place over the years so that when they still need sleep, even as teenagers, they've got these early morning starts to be there. They've got all the exams, all the revision, that kind of thing. And it is, like you say, foundations for later. I always made it never a punishment to go to bed. It's actually a great thing to go and have a great sleep, and you're, making sure they have nice pillows now, and it feels like a great moment, like any experience, that they're going to go and enjoy it rather than it being a punishment.
Absolutely. And that's why gentle methods with sleep training young babies and older babies, it works, because the association with sleep is a gentle one. You're saying to your baby, this is a great thing for you. Let's do it. I'll come with you and I'll help you and I'll stay with you for a while, and you'll learn how to do it yourself, and then you won't need me to do it. But you'll love it and you'll feel great in the morning. It's just a wonderful process once it's done.
I love it. Well, Louise, thank you so much. I think you're giving an incredible gift to mums. It's a huge impact, actually, what you're doing. What's
thank you.
Inspirational quote that you can leave us with?
My inspirational quote is, believe you can and you're halfway there. If you believe that you can make a difference, you will do it. Self-doubt stops so many things from happening. If you have the tools to do the job correctly, you can do it and you will succeed.
Brilliant. Love it. I'm all about that positivity. I think it's half the battle. Okay. Louise from Gently to Sleep, thank you ever so much for sharing all that with us.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Please don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, review it, and share it with your friends.